Your success. So, on today's episode, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about specifically how to make your iPad or your phone safer for your kids to use with or without your supervision. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this episode today is because I've got a 6-year-old, nearly 7-year-old kid, and he's been using my iPad from time to time for quite a while now. And I'm not getting to a debate here about whether or not it's right or wrong for kids to use screens and how much time they should have. That is for you as a parent to decide. I'm just telling you the stuff that I've learned over the past few months about how I can protect my kid when they do go on to whatever device they're on, whether it's my phone, their phone, my iPad, or whatever. And there's a few quick things that I've actually figured out that are absolutely game changing. They're simple to do, and it's not a massive faff for especially for a few of them. And it just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about giving them my iPad to look at. Now, the reason I care about this stuff is, like, if you've ever typed into a Google search anything that it could remotely be interpreted as something to do with pornography or violence or anything that could be, I don't know, just presents something of a horrible image that you don't want to show to a little kid, like, that Google will just throw it at you because that's sort of what they expect you thinks you want to see. And so this also works for you. Like, it's the same problem with YouTube. You can type in something YouTube and see some really random stuff that's totally been misinterpreted for what you meant, and you end up, getting some bombarded with stuff. And as adults, that's fine. We just ignore it and move on and close it down or whatever. Or maybe that is what you're searching for, and that's absolutely fine too. It's all up to you. But the point is, I don't want my kid to do that by accident, on purpose. He's too young. I don't want him to get exposed to all of the absolutely disgusting and horrific stuff that you can get really, really simply and easily on a device if it's not been locked down. So that was my fear. How do I protect him so he doesn't, at this very young and age? He's quite a sensitive kid anyway. I think he'd be absolutely mortified and shocked by anything like that. And so I don't want him to have to go through that right now. He can deal with that when he's old enough, and he can make his own decisions. I do not want him to happen to him now. So that's the reason for wanting to do this. So there are a few things. So first of all, I'm going to cover how I've locked down my own iPad to make it safer to give him to use to watch YouTube or maybe play on a game. And it's super simple stuff. So the first one is, there's 3 things I'm going to share about my iPad and how I've locked this down. And then, and you probably have not heard of all these 3, even if you've got some of the stuff. So these 3, 2 of them especially, are pretty cool. Well, one of them is an awesome one I never even knew existed. The second thing, I'm going to talk about how I've actually set up my Google old Google phone, it hasn't got SIM card in or anything, so I can't ring anybody, but it's just set up an old Google phone I had, an Android phone. I've set it up so he can have that to listen to his audiobooks on, and I can give it to him completely safely, that he can go and search and play on it and just have a little play, but he can't access anything, even if I'm not there. So that's one that he gets at night sometimes when he's having an audiobook before he goes to sleep. And so I give him to that. So he could, in effect, be on his own. He could do what he wants on it, but he can't do anything that I'm worried about now because I've locked it down. So that's what I want to talk about today. So first of all, let's talk about the iPad. So the first things I done on my iPad was to use something called guided access. And if you've not used guided access before, it's just a super simple thing to set up. You literally go into the settings, go to accessibility, and switch on guided access. Now, when you want to give your kid your device to say watch YouTube on, or, I'm going to talk about YouTube in a minute because that's a very specific thing as well. We're going to lock that down as well really easily. But so you give them, I don't know, maybe Disney, give them it to watch, the new Aladdin on Disney or whatever it is. You don't want them to, come back to you 3 minutes later saying, Dad, I just shut it down. It's not working. Bah, 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 tears, complete chaos when, they just managed to close it by mistake and then it's all switched off and there's arguments going on and whatever. Get rid of all that nonsense. Also, make sure they are actually doing what you said they should do. So if you give them an educational game to do, or you give them, Disney to watch, you don't want to go back 10 minutes later and find out that they're playing Minecraft if you don't want them to. Again, I'm not going to make any judgments about what you do and don't do with your kids, but it's really simple device. As I said, app. It's called guided access. It's not an app. It's sort of a setting in accessibility. Once it's switched on, You literally hit the home key 3 times as you pass it over to your son or daughter, and then they can't do anything. It locks it onto that single app, and they can't do anything unless you remove that access. So you're basically guiding access means they get to use the one app that you told them to or you want them to, and nothing else. They can't close it down. They can't exit it. You can't get annoyed by hitting the home screen. It blocks the whole thing down so they can just use it. It is super cool. I can't tell you how much I wish I'd had that when my kid was, 4 or whatever, continually shutting down stuff when I, threw the iPad at him. Not that I threw the iPad at him. I gave him the iPad to use. I've not been throwing things at my son, I promise. Don't call anyone in on me. And anyway, yes, I wish I'd known that. Then that would have been, God, the amount of tears that would have saved was unbelievable. The second thing is about YouTube. Now, YouTube is awesome. It's like got loads of cool stuff that kids can watch. My son loves watching. He's into Rainbow Friends at the moment. He likes watching other people play Rainbow Friends, and he enjoys it. It's great. It's harmless fun. But I don't want him to get onto YouTube search and starting finding stuff I do not want a 7-year-old or 6.5, 7-year-old to see. And so I found the other day you can get something called YouTube Kids. Now, you may know about this. I didn't know about this. But YouTube Kids is something you can set as a parent, the age restriction of the YouTube app without affecting my YouTube. I want to be able to look whatever I want. If I want to watch, some horror movie on YouTube or watch some clip of, I don't know, something that I don't want to say a 6-year-old to watch, while I'm just, whiling away the hours, that's my prerogative. But I don't want my son to have the same experience. So YouTube Kids, you lock it down so he can watch anything. I think the brackets are like under 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 12, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but you basically give it, whatever bracket you're comfortable with your kid watching. And then they can only find things on the internet which are appropriate for kids and under that particular age bracket. So it's super safe for him to now go and search and to find out whatever he wants. He can watch every once on there because I know it's been, it's been filtered. So he's only actually getting to see stuff that is appropriate for him. And this is the secret to this is really simple. Is when I want to give him my iPad, I used to have loads of stuff on my desktop that you could click on, whatever. I just got rid of it all. And so on my actual main desktop is just the stuff that he likes to use. So you've got Disney on there and you've got YouTube Kids. And then I've hidden the YouTube main app. So if I want to use YouTube, I just have to go to the search and type in YouTube and it will come up. But for him to do that, when he can just click on the screen and where it says YouTube Kids, like he's a 6-year-old brain. He just wants the easiest way to get what he wants. He's not getting, maybe in a few years, I'll have to actually think about this. If I find him going onto the other YouTube, but I don't want him to, well, yeah, fine. I'll deal with it then. But for now and for younger kids, that works perfectly well. Get everything off the screen that you don't want them to see. Hide the stuff that you really don't want to look at, like YouTube or Google, whatever. And then give them easy access to the stuff you do want them to see, and use YouTube Kids. The third thing, this is the most powerful, but the most and granular controls that you have is using screen time, which you may well be aware of. And this is just going to go through 4 specific things in Apple screen time, which I think are super cool, super useful. 3 specific things in screen time, which I think will you'll probably just jump on immediately if you've not already done these things. So the first one is go to settings and screen time, then turn it on. That's the first thing you need to do. And then you also need to turn on within the screen time is the content and privacy restrictions. The menus might have changed. I'm doing this live on video, and I could show you on an iPad and whatever. It's probably going to change by the time you watch this or listen to this. So this is just giving me the heads up of what's available. So you're going to figure it out for yourself. But yeah, screen time, content privacy restrictions, turn that on. And then you've got iTunes and App Store purchases. And you can actually switch on a password protection to all app purchases to make sure that's switched on so that your son or daughter, your kid, they can't buy anything without your permission. And you can also switch off the ability to do in-app purchases. So all app purchases require a password and in-app purchases aren't allowed. And if you want to do an in-app purchase from time to time, you can just go and switch it off and go in. But that's the way I've set it up because I never buy in-app stuff anyway, so it doesn't bother me at all. The second thing is that my kid's just getting into multiplayer games, so like Rainbow Friends and also Roblox in general. If you know what I'm talking about, Minecraft as well. These are multiplayer games where they can connect with their friends and that over the internet. And so I've gone into the settings, screen time, content restrictions. And in there, you can go to multiplayer games and then restrict who they can actually have multiplayer games with. And you can set settings, for example, only allow them to connect with existing friends. You can also switch off the ability for them to connect with new friends. And so therefore you can then very control who they are actually playing with online with quite a lot of certainty that they're actually only playing with people that you've given them permission to play with, because you have to sit with them and add new friends, and you turn that permission on and off so they can add new friends while you're with them. So again, for younger kids, I think that's a really, really good one. And the other really easy one to set up is that, say if you want to limit the amount of times that your kids plays on any specific app, then actually there's something in the screen time as well called app limits. And therefore you can go in and you can just basically set a timer for whatever app they want to use. So whether it's Mario Kart or Minecraft or Roblox or whatever, and just set how much time per day they can actually spend on that specific app. And then when it gets to the end, it just stops them being able to use it, and it puts up a warning 5 minutes before, so they know it's gonna kick them out. And that's it. So that's really sort of like limiting the overall, not the overall usage, but the uses per app. So it means if someone's getting a bit addicted to an app, you can just say give them 10 minutes, once at the weekend or something, or on a Saturday, just allow 10 minutes once a week to use it, and then obviously then it stops them getting craving and all the rest of the bad things that happen when you give your kids too much app time or screen time. So that's all the simple 3 things that I've used for my iPad, which is switching on guided access. That's probably the easiest and simplest and the most effective. The second one is to use YouTube Kids and to hide your adult YouTube. The third one is to use the screen time functionality and then set some settings, for example, to set the restrict the in-app purchases, password protect all purchases, and to only allow multiplayer games with friends, and then to actually also add app limits for specific apps for the amount of time that they can play with it per day or per week or whatever it is. So those are the main things that I've done for my iPad. Now I'm just going to quickly talk about the stuff I've done on my Android phone. So actually, no, on his Android phone. So as I mentioned in the intro, I have a old Android phone that I basically, it was sat in a cupboard doing nothing. And I basically listened to audiobooks, and he likes to listen to audiobooks, as well. So at nighttime, he wants to listen to Funny Bones or the Gruffalo or whatever. And sometimes I'm not going to bed at the same time as him. He goes to bed about 7 o'clock. I go to bed very early. He goes to bed about 8 actually now. So we often go to bed at the same time. I'm pretty sad. I normally go to bed about 8 o'clock. But when we don't go to bed at the same time, then he might want to listen to his audiobook while I'm still using my phone. And so it became this sort of battle between who's going to get the Audible account. So I got my other phone and I gave it to him. And it was basically just set up how it used to be set up. But I had this niggle in the back of my mind, like what happens if, he started browsing around and it's got all my settings on there. So I did a little research about how I could set him up a totally safe Android device. And you can do a very similar thing, I believe, using the family settings on iPhones as well. But this is my experience on a Google Android device. And there's this app called Family Link on Google App Store. And what that allows you to do is to basically set up your parent account. You create a new Gmail account for your kid, and you link your parent account to control that Gmail account. And then you can do what you want with that. So you can restrict things like access to YouTube and Google searches and app purchases and location settings and all your stuff. You basically control all the settings, and they can't change any settings at all until they get to the age of 13, as far as I can see. And that may be a USA, and the age may be different from what country you're living in. But what I could see is when they get to 13, they will actually get control of that email address. That'll be allowed to. So you put the date of birth in when you put it in. Now, what this allowed me to do was to go into my old phone, to basically log out of my existing user and wipe. I just basically did a factory reset on it. And then when I put the phone back on, I logged in with his account, and then I chose which apps I was going to install. So I installed things like YouTube Kids, as I talked about a minute ago, Audible, so we can listen to all his audiobooks on there. And then I can't remember a few other things, a few games and things and Disney and whatever that he uses sometimes on there. And so he's just got very few select apps. He can't add any apps on there without my permission. I can see when he logs in and out. I can actually, I think you actually see when he's online and switch off. I've not really used it that much yet. I only did it a few weeks ago. And he doesn't use it very often, to be honest. It's not a big deal in our family, thankfully. And the other thing you can do though is actually use it for tracking. So once you've set it up, you put location services on, I can actually see where that phone is at any time. So it's not a phone he actually takes out with him now. He's only 6. I don't think he needs a phone when he's going out of the house at the moment. We live in a pretty safe neighborhood. He doesn't walk to school on his own or anything at the moment. So at the moment we don't do that. But when he starts walking to school, next couple of years, or maybe 2 or 3 years, whatever, then you can actually track exactly where that phone is at any given time, which gives you, big peace of mind if you're a worrying, paranoid parent like me. Then hopefully that I can see where he's up to, what he's doing, and hopefully then that'll make me rest a little bit easier. And that's it. So for really just a summary of the Google stuff, it's just using the Family Link app. It's super easy to set up. It does take about an hour or so to do. So set aside some time. I was feeling rubbish one Saturday morning and just sat there with it with I had a cold. There you go. Not that you need to know. And so I just couldn't be bothered doing anything. So I sat there and figured it all out. It took me about an hour probably to do the Family Link stuff, and then a similar time to figure out how to do the rest. And with all this stuff, just Google it. If or use Bing now with ChatGPT, it's probably even better. So yeah, either use Bing or Google, and if you want to find out more about this stuff. But hopefully this is giving you some insights, some ideas of the type of things you can do. So in summary, lock down your iPad, your own iPad, using guided access, YouTube Kids, and screen time, and lock down any Android device using the Family Link app from the Google Play Store. Therefore, then you can let your kids use your devices appropriately and for the right amount of time and all that stuff. But you can do it feeling a little bit safer about the whole thing. And that's it. Cool. Have a fantastic day. If you like this episode, please do hit subscribe. Listen, if you're listening to this on a streaming app for your podcast, please do subscribe to that too. If you are watching this on YouTube, of course, subscribe and hit me up with some replies, some comments. Let me know how you found this, what other things you'd like me to talk about. And if you wouldn't mind, please leave us a review. 5 stars is always nice. And that's it for today. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you very soon. Thank you very much.